Hey, welcome to X-Oriente, the new voice of brotherhood. I am your host, Eric Diamond.
I am your other host, Jason Van Dyke.
And welcome, everybody. And today we're talking about something near and dear to my heart, seeing as I kind of work in the field, which is advertising.
Hooray.
So the idea for this topic was yours, Jason. Tell me a little bit more about what we're going to talk about.
Well, so it's something that's been percolating in my head for a while. What I wanted to talk about today mostly is the ad campaign. It's been around for what, maybe 2 years, a year. I don't know.
About a year. Maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
and the ad campaign is Not Just a Man, a Mason. Which was originated by the Northern Masonic jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. That's those 15 states up there. They had a woman named Linda Patch, who is an advertising executive, I think. And she came on staff. Her husband's a Mason. Worked on staff at the Spring Council, NMJ. And they brought her on to kind of, hey, if you had this brand, what would you do? And that sort of ended up getting more and more serious to the point where she really put some time in and did basically a whole marketing plan for them. And they thought, as she was kind of doing it, they said, listen, we'll pay you for this. We're gonna do this out. Let's do it right, and let's do it. What if you could do it for everybody? What if we made this free for everyone? Anybody wants to customize it, they can go ahead and they can do it. What would you do? And so she actually came up with a pretty slick idea, which is to create this marketing campaign and give it out for free to any Grand Lodge that wants to use it. And the idea being that integrated and coherent marketing plans work the best, right? Mm-hmm. And so their idea was, if you make it free, more people will buy in. The more people that buy in, the more effective the campaign is going to be, because it delivers a unified message. Now, what's interesting to me is that good or bad? Has it worked? Has it not worked? Those are interesting things. And now that the campaign's been out there for a while, I think it's interesting to revisit it and kind of critique it and figure out what's going on. They've teased to some people that they're going to have a big announcement at the Conference of Grandmasters in February of this year, which is the second weekend in February. As only Masons do, cleverly timed for just after Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, so
you gotta do what I do, man. We opted out.
Listen, we opted out a long time ago as well. But again, the way to the hearts and minds of folks, and telling them, hey, family's important, is probably not the best follow up. By the way, we're going to have a Masonic meeting all weekend on the weekend of Valentine's Day. Hey, yeah. Anyhow, so they've teased that they're going to have this big rollout, right? So what better time to talk about this than now, while we await their big rollout and what's going to happen. So I think first, let's start with basics, right?
Okay.
Let's start with the creative. What do you think when you look at it?
Well, wait.
What do you think?
Before we get to creative, I mean, let's follow the process, right? So.
Okay. Oh, no. All right. Yeah, I got
right.
You.
So like if this had come into my
sure.
agency, right? There'd be
right.
There'd be like a program brief or a client brief, right? And the client would basically say, we need an ad campaign.
That's right.
Right. And so.
And ad campaigns can be what? They can, what do they look to do?
Well, I mean, typically.
Are they going to either sell something?
You're creating
right?
awareness of a product.
You're creating awareness, right?
You are, yeah. Selling is
only no. When I say selling is only
advertising doesn't sell anything.
No. When I say selling, I mean they're selling a specific thing, meaning like, hey, we have a sale. It's 40% off this weekend. I'm trying to sell you this right now.
Yeah, so that would be a promotional campaign.
Yeah,
That would be
correct.
Like a promotional campaign.
Sure.
There are brand campaigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm trying to create awareness for my brand, or I'm trying to
develop an identity.
Yeah, get you to make certain associations with my brand. There could also be a what's called a consideration, right? It would be a goal, like to get people to like, maybe I should buy this product or not.
Maybe I should give this a try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what they're well, here's the thing. We can talk about it, but I think you're right. I think we need to kind of look at the creative first.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
So we
because we weren't there. We weren't there.
Yeah.
So let's look at the creative.
All right. So let's look at the creative. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is these are the sort of so what they did was they created a bunch of different posts for social media. They created banner ads. They created, it's pretty comprehensive. They created some posters, which are quite lovely, and some video.
Right. Now we can probably, we can distill it down further, which is basically they've got still images with some copy on them, right? And then they make those into a whole bunch of different places where you can put those, right? I can put that on a billboard if I want to. I can put it on a Facebook page if I want to. But it's the same message, same image that you're going to get across these different platforms, which doesn't sound difficult. It is. It takes a good amount of work by a graphic designer. So that's first, and then they have a little bit of video as well that you can run as spots either on social media, on your own website, or hell, you can buy a Super Bowl ad, And so they've got 30 and 60, don't they? I think they've got both. They have a 30-second ad and a 60-second ad. Yeah. Which honestly, it's what's crazy about it. Not that expensive, but we'll get to that later.
Okay, so let's take a look at the. I'm calling it print, but it's really print and social.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
So here's the first one. Right. This is sort of the basic, not just a man, a Mason. Right.
Yeah.
Here's the second one. Being a Mason doesn't make you better than everyone else. It just makes you a better you. Here's the third one. We believe that mankind should be exactly that. Here's the fourth one. We're much more about lending a helping hand than a secret handshake. And for those people who are listening, who are not watching the video on this, you can pick up the video. We'll have it on YouTube. It's also on Facebook. But we'll also be posting links to all the ads and to the website, so you can see exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. Here's the fifth one. We do everything we can to be present and still be part of history. Here's the sixth one. It takes a big man to believe in something bigger than himself. Here's the seventh one. Blood is thicker than water, but nothing's thicker than brotherhood. And here's the eighth one. Whatever life throws at you, you have millions of brothers to help you catch it. And here's the ninth one. Becoming a Mason doesn't make you a better person. Oh, wait. Yes, it does.
Which is kind of my favorite.
So, all right. So clearly, the strategy here seems to be one of awareness.
Right.
They're trying to create awareness for the Masonic fraternity. And I think what they're trying to do is reframe how people think about Freemasonry.
Yes.
So
where do you get that? Where do you get that from? Do you get that more? Do you get that stronger from the image or from the copy?
Yeah. So if you look at the images, right? The images. Let me go back and kind of go back to the visuals, right? Take a look at the images here. You don't see guys in Masonic regalia. You don't see them in lodge. You don't see them toasting, firing glasses or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
What you do see is you see multi-generational dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like here we have the blood is thicker than water. We've got, an older guy with a younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
We've got we've got a young guy, African-American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very important
Mm-hmm.
for those people who think that, Masonry is a bunch of old white dudes, right? Got a young guy here. Got an older guy here. Got a young guy with his son, right? Showing Masons are good family men, right?
And generational.
Generational, right? We've got this very young guy. This guy looks like he's, barely out of college. And here's a guy who's probably, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s, right? So we're showing guys in various kind of states of lifestyle, of life stage.
What are they doing?
They're living their lives, right? One
Are
guy's
they?
in his one guy's
Well, tell me what they're doing in the ads, because I think that's important as well.
Okay.
So that one's a generic. So the first one is generic, but
wait. This guy is he's in his workshop, right? He's got safety glasses on his head.
Correct.
We see a workshop in the background.
Yep.
This guy's in a bike shop. Right.
Got an apron on, so clearly he's working with his hands, because there's someone actually working behind him with an apron just like his.
Right.
So we can make an inference there.
So he's working on a bike shop. This guy is a professional man. He's working on his tablet.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
We see this guy. He's at the seashore with his son.
Right?
We see him
taking some free time. Sure.
Taking some free time. This guy looks like he's just kind of hanging out with his pals.
I'd call that a student.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. This guy, clearly they're fishing.
I think it's important that it's not just fishing; it's fly fishing.
Okay.
And I say that because fly fishing is a more technical sport, right? And you can really feel that because look at all the gear that they're wearing; it's specialized. It takes a little bit more of a commitment to be a fly fisherman than it does to walk out to the side of a dock with a bobber and a worm and just drop it in and wait, right? Takes some skill to be a fly fisherman. Okay.
Yeah, this guy is clearly, I put it this way. If I had to say what's going on here, either it's two guys having a beer, one guy's mentoring the other, but it's clearly like a multi-generational interaction.
Did you miss? No, go back. Did you miss what's in his pocket?
I did miss what's in his pocket. What's in his pocket?
He's got safety glasses in his pocket there. And so what I think that is the older guy, the master, teaching his apprentice.
Okay.
And it looks, if you look, you can kind of see the timber frames above them, and they look kind of open. So maybe they're on a job site, right?
Possible.
But again, this is the third time, maybe fourth, that we've seen craftsmen.
Okay.
Okay.
And then finally, the last guy is just he like the first one. It's just a dude kind of looking at us.
Sure. But he's got a wood fence in the back. Yeah, he is. He's definitely got a confident look. He's got a wood fence in the background. And this one feels more like I'm in my backyard. I'm sort of an every guy. This is my deck.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of a vibe to it.
Could be.
But I think that imagery is really important, and in fact, I think is pretty strong imagery for it.
Yeah.
I think the copy is really cool. Actually, it's pretty well done. So I mean, the images and the copy have to work together because you have just a brief section of time to tell a story to your audience, and that story should ideally evoke a feeling. It should bring something out of you, and it should be a positive one, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big ask, and I don't think people understand how hard it is to do that stuff.
Well, and here's what we don't see, right? We don't see
Mm-hmm.
mysterious grottos with guys
There you
in
go.
white
No,
tie.
this is great. Yeah, you're right.
No from hell
Nope.
imagery.
Nope.
Nothing about Ben
Nope.
Franklin or
Nope.
Revolutionary War heroes or
No, it's all modern.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
even the older guys. Here's an interesting thing. Even the older guys that are pictured in this look modern. They have new, nicer glasses on, well-styled hair, stylish clothing. So it's all modern.
Yeah.
So, which I think is really interesting. There's no tradition, really. So,
Okay.
okay. So we've got that. Now, so looking at the ads, right? So looking at the print ads in general, are they effective? I mean, not in an advertising way, because in advertising, I mean, you're gonna try and attempt to measure your effectiveness, right? Did your website hits go up? Did you go viral? How do you define that? I mean, there's numbers behind a lot of stuff that you can use to define if a campaign is successful or not. But what I'm asking is more personal. For you, is the campaign successful? Do you look at that and think, boy, that really, you know what? That does put a good face. That's a good representation of the Masonry I know and love.
So it pains me to say this because I really want to love this as a campaign. Because first off, I have to say this is probably the best thing the Scottish Rite has done for Freemasonry in like the last 50 years. Honestly, like
I'd agree with that.
The fact that they're taking this on themselves, I think, is fantastic and sorely needed. And
it is a giant project.
And here's the thing: I'm willing to cut them a lot of slack here.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's literally this is the Masonic equivalent to me of someone saying like, well, you know what? I'm gonna give that Middle East peace thing. I'm gonna give it a crack.
Yeah.
I think I can make a real difference here. I mean, it's that for us, it's that big of a question, right? Mm-hmm. How do you market yourself when you don't really market yourself?
Right. All right. So having said all that,
yeah.
Here's my problem with it is that it's not like, and really, and full disclosure here, I work in advertising. I work for a large ad agency. I work as a strategist, a brand strategist. The problem with it is that it's not telling me why I would want to be a Mason in a succinct enough way. Right. So for example, not just a man, a Mason, great slogan. Love it. Let's see here. Being a Mason doesn't make you better than everyone else. It just makes you a better you. I think this one is so some of them are better than others, right? I think this one is really strong. I think this one actually does pay off a strategy, which is that Masonry is about self-improvement.
Yeah.
Right.
I 100% agree with your assessment on this. That's probably the strongest ad.
I think we believe that mankind should be exactly that. It's clever, but it's not giving me a sense of why I would want to become a Mason. We're much more about lending a helping hand than a secret handshake. I think that's decent. Again, this is a good one because this is dispelling a myth, right? That we're funny hats and secret words and stuff.
Absolutely. All
right. We do everything we can to be present and still be part of history. This one I don't get. I'm looking at it through my, we have a term that we use in my office. We call them zillennials, right? These are millennials and Gen Z. Yeah. And I don't know that a zillennial would understand this.
I don't think so either. And in fact, go back for a second. I honestly question whether anybody but a Mason would understand that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, there was an opportunity here to talk about generational stuff.
Yep.
You know, passing down a tradition or something like that.
Sure.
I think that they may have missed the boat a little bit on that one.
Okay.
It takes a big man to believe in something bigger than himself. Again, I think it's a good idea. It needs a little bit more, right? It might be in the wordsmithing, but I'm okay with it. Blood is thicker than water, but nothing's thicker than brotherhood. I don't know. What do you think about this one?
Second strongest.
You think so? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's why. I think that the copy is trying too hard, but when you pair it with the image, which I think the image in this instance is actually relatively strong compared to a lot of the other imagery, I think that the combination works really well. And so I'm willing to say, yeah, this one's strong. If I'm glancing at this and remember the key here is if I get something in 3 seconds or not, because that's the longest anyone's ever going to look at this.
I think what this one needs is a call to action, right?
Ooh.
A good old CTA,
okay.
right?
Okay, sure.
Nothing's thicker than brotherhood, you know. Okay, what do I do about that, right? So for example, what's interesting is that, like, what this ad starts to do is it starts to reframe the idea of friendship, right? Is that like, for most guys, friends are the guys that you hang out with and you do stuff with, right?
Yeah.
These are my bowling friends. These are my D&D group friends. These are my,
okay, sure. Right.
And Masonry has that, but it also has a lot more than that, right? There's a commitment to that. And so I think that's kind of where what they're trying to get to here. They just haven't, you know, like it almost wants to be like a call to action, like almost like something like a take. And I'm riffing here, so it's like,
yeah, I got it.
But form a bond that's thicker than, you know, blood or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it. I know exactly where you're going with it. And I think you're right. I think that the copy is, again, it tries too hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, they tried to make a clever turn of word. And it works within the imagery, but I agree, if you took a little bit more time with it and distilled your message a little bit, it could be the best ad of the bunch.
Yeah.
I think the imagery is really strong there. I like the multi-generational thing. I like the fly fishing kind of a deal. It's sort of it's a manly sport, but it's a brainy kind of a sport. A little upper crusty.
Yeah.
I
Take some
dig
finesse.
Yeah, absolutely. I dig the idea that's behind this. I also like that it sells almost I hate I'm saying this out loud, but that's basically all of advertising, is when you say it out loud, you just sound like a douchebag. But this to me,
thank you, Jason.
I'm sure it is, right? It's so bad because it's basically talking about why a joke works. You've destroyed any magic it has.
That's right.
But for me here, this hits. If I was a hipster and I was looking at this, I would think like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
It'd make me pause. It would give that extra second.
Okay. And number 8, I think this one is probably, I think, the strongest one conceptually. Like, it says, whatever life throws at you, you have millions of brothers to help you catch it. That to me is like a clear benefit,
Agreed.
Clear, you know, in advertising, we call them RTBs, reasons to believe.
Right.
That is a clear RTB as to why I would want to be a Mason.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is by far the strongest copy alone. The image is terrible.
I love the image. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I hate it.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah. I think it's the weakest one. You missed the safety glasses. You missed the fact that they're in probably a house under construction.
But I don't
all that stuff. Right, but
I don't
again,
think any of that is important. I think what's important is that you have two generational guys and they're connecting.
it's boring. So here's my critique of this, and that's mine's a little different. I'm kind of okay with the imagery, but to me these look like successories. The popular brand of motivational poster that one would see in the least creative auto dealership on the face of the planet, right above the finance officer's desk, telling him, greatness doesn't just come. You have to work for it.
Yeah.
Sunset, gauzy. What's it called? With the blur in the back. What's the Japanese word for it? Come on, you know it.
Wabi sabi.
No.
Bonsai.
Bokeh.
Bokeh.
What is
bokeh?
Bokeh. Right. Bokeh lights. Yeah.
I think you're being too hard on it.
I am being too hard on it. I agree with you.
But I
think that's my personal aesthetic. Like I look at that and I think to myself, damn, why did you have to look like a successory? If you look at good aspirational ads, they don't look like this. The aesthetic is old. I hate to say that. That's how it feels to me. It is not, the art isn't very good. That's all I have to say. I don't like the fonts. I don't like how they've played with the square and compasses watermarking, the side of it. To me, it's a very aughts kind of a ad. Do you see what I'm saying? It does not look polished and professional. It looks like someone took a lot of time with Getty Images, picking out some good-looking dudes doing dude stuff.
Well,
and then putting some accessories to it.
So here's the problem with that. So, and I don't know. I don't have any inside information. We probably should have gotten somebody from Scottish Rite to talk about this, and maybe we will in a follow up. But
the best laid plans of mice.
I know, but here's the thing. I'm sure they're limited to stock for not stock, but I mean it's all stock, but they're limited to royalty free.
Sure, and I think that the budget is what dictates that area. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Because here's the thing: like if you license a photo, and this is just I realize that this is a little bit of inside baseball, but if you license a photo, right? There's two kinds of photos when you buy stock, right? If you go to Getty or Corbis or any of the big services.
Yep.
There's two ways that you can license photos. One way is royalty free, which basically means,
anybody can use that.
You pay a fee. Well, no. Anybody can do anything, right?
Well, that's true.
You pay a fee.
Yep.
Typically, it's around $300-$400 for a high res photo, and then once you pay that, you get to use it in whatever you want, right? Subject to the terms, right? You can't use it. You can't. Like if we wanted to create like, Joe's cocaine delivery service, like there are things that you can't, there's terms that you can't violate. Right. But you can pretty much do whatever you want with it, and it can run as long as you want. When you license a photo,
the worst part about hanging out with you is that sometimes you say things like that and my brain goes immediately into an ad with some guy who's just jacked going, "Come to Joe's blowhole." Yeah. I can't do it anymore.
Oh, Jason.
That's terrible. Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
All right. So the other way that this works is you license a photo. Mm-hmm. And when you license a photo, it's for a very specific term. Right. Mm-hmm. So you basically have to go to someone like Corbis and you get a quote. Mm-hmm. And you basically say, I want to run this ad on 28 billboards across the United States between this date and this date. Mm-hmm. And so what they do is when they license that stuff, you get to use the photo exactly how it's written out in the contract. Right. You pay the money, and then that's it. Once the ads run, they're done. Right. You don't own the license anymore. You're licensing it for a period of time.
Yep.
And typically with licensed photos, right, when you hire a model to do that, you have to pay the model concurrently with the contract. So if you want to use it again, you have to license it again.
Right.
And it can get very, very, very expensive
very quickly
to do that. And so basically the way it kind of works in the stock industry is that the royalty-free stuff tends to not be as high quality as the licensed stuff, because the licensed stuff they can make a lot of money on. And the other thing too is that they will make sure that, like, if you're running this, for example, if our guy here, right, our not just a man, a Mason dude, if this were a licensed thing, right, they would make sure that no other, like, church or nonprofit or something like that could use that ad for a period of like 2 years.
And why would you do that, Eric?
Well, you do it because you're trying to create associations between your organization and the image, right? So like our two fly fishing guys, right? And if you saw that image, that exact same image, and this happens with royalty free too, right? You see the same person in the same situation, in an ad for some other product, right? Yeah. You're just like, wait a minute, I thought that was the Masonic guy, right? Yeah. Right. And so that's kind of how it works. So you're kind of limited. Now it's getting better. I mean, there are services, like there's a new service called Unsplash, which has some really interesting, creative, cool stuff. It's probably a little too edgy for what the Scottish Rite would want to do. Right. It's like, millennials with like tattoos and crazy hair and stuff like that. And it may not be exactly what they're trying to portray, but that I'm willing to kind of, it does look a little bit, but again, they're trying to make something that's going to work for the majority of Grand Lodges across the country. And so I'm fine with the way that they're doing photography. And I think it'll probably get better as they, as they go through seasons and do them.
Let me just say this, and that's that. Well, I say I don't like it, and aesthetically, it's just not my cup of tea and whatever. I want to be really clear, because I'm offering these critiques, and I will be kind of harsh on some of this stuff, but I want to make it clear they did something. Like this is not a trivial amount of work they put into this. This is big time. This is hard stuff to do. And this is not something that just one person sat down behind their, laptop and decided to just go, bloop, there we go. I made a meme. Off it goes. This is the work of several professionals whose career this is. And it's clear. I mean, it's good. I think it's a good start. I have critiques of it, but it's, yeah.
Yeah. So Norbert Mejia says these ads don't spark interest in the fraternity for me. And yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can too. Understand that.
Be specific though, Norbert. Why not? What about it doesn't spark for you? Or maybe if you can't figure out what doesn't spark it for you, what would have? Maybe that's a better question to it. But like my critique of it is that the image is a little too slick. The photos are a little too slick. And they don't. I don't think that they match the. I think the font choice is bad.
All right, well, let's get
is that right, I know, is that bad? I know it's bad. I know it's bad, but whatever. I don't like the font choice. I'm sticking by my guns there.
All right, that's fine. I'm okay with the font.
Really?
Yeah.
It surprises me.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with the font.
You're nerdier than I am with the font stuff, and that's really you're okay with the font choice?
Yeah, I am.
Why? Now I want to know why.
Because they've used a nice serif that has it's a serif font, but it's bold. The thing about a serif font is that it kind of evokes a little bit of tradition. I don't want it to be too modern because I want it to connect. But here's the thing. What I also don't want is I don't want Old English or papyrus or any
no. Listen,
crazy stuff.
I would not be nice if they had used papyrus. Just I want that made clear. But here's the thing: is that I think it's really funny because you say, listen, that serif, it evokes a little bit of tradition to it. But I think that thank you, Tony. This is exactly what I was going to say. It just doesn't fit, right? So you've got that sleek, simple, everything is like that nice portrait mode, gauzy in the background and stuff. Everything else is very modern except for the font. And to me, it's distracting.
No, I don't
like that.
Okay. I think the font is modern. I put it this way. There are other fonts that they could have used. However, one thing that I will say about the font that they chose, they did something very, very smart.
Okay.
They chose a font that pretty much everybody already has.
Okay.
So that's important because licensing fonts can get very, very expensive, and it makes it, if you have to customize it.
All right. That's fair. And again, let's talk about when you look at advertising, kids, everything costs them holy God amounts of money.
I know it's crazy. The production costs are cray.
They're nuts.
But so I think they did a smart thing. And here's the thing, as fonts go, it's legible. It works at big and small sizes. Where I do have a quibble, and before I worked in advertising, I was a designer for many years. Is the logo in the lower left corner. So if you take a look here,
I agree with that too.
Here's the problem, and this is like one of those design things. And I can tell you, like, so far I've designed 2 logos for X-Oriente. I sweated over them, and what's funny is that so if you take a look at the logo in the lower right hand side, the problem with it is that the font that they use here, where it has the tagline, not just a man, a Mason. That particular font that they used, I think they used a variant of a lighter weight of the same font. At the lighter weight, the serifs are too thin, and the parts of the type. So, for example, if you look at the letter S. Right. In the word just, right. There's thicks and thins in here. And I won't bore you with the technical term for these. Right. But the problem is that if you use a font like that, and this is one of the problems with serif fonts, at small sizes, they tend to break up.
Right.
Yeah. And so the rule of thumb that when I was an apprentice as a designer is that it has to work on the side of a pen, or it has to work on the side of a building. It has to scale. And I can tell you, so for example, if you look on our video in the lower left hand corner, we've got this is the second X-Oriente logo, right? This one works pretty well in monochrome, which is why we use it. Right now, I have another one, the older one. Which looks kind of like, let's see if I can, find an example of that. This one, ooh, it's a little large. Let's see if I can.
Tomas.
There. So if you look at this one's great, but it does not work very well, like in monochrome, right? Like as soon as you're absolutely right. These little, it really has to be on a white background, which is why I have multiple logos, right? And it's hard. It's really hard to do something, to do something like that. And so I think what happened was they had something that looked really good, on a, when it's, 2 or 3 inches high. But when it gets really small in a social post, it just breaks up. And then the other problem too is again, if you look at the square and compasses, there's not enough solid detail to really make out that that's a square and compass. It's really, when you look at the ad in its entirety and you look at that logo, it's just, the whole thing's just getting lost for me.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
I think they need to, and again, this is something, it's not trivial. I can tell you, I've made, like, the square and compasses that go into the logo, I made those myself.
Yeah,
And
it's
hours.
a pain in
It
the
took
ass.
hours and hours to get the right. You know, if the tip is too pointy,
Yep.
it disappears.
Yep.
If it's too thick, you know, it's got to have the right proportions. Very, very hard to do.
Yeah, pull that back up. Here are my quibbles with that as well. I really dislike the proportions. I think that the square and compasses are too fat and square. Mm-hmm. Which I know that's probably actually what they're going for there, in order to keep the proportions for not just a man of Mason, for the tagline underneath. And I don't like it. I think it looks squished, actually. The not just a man of Mason underneath the square and compasses, I would argue might be a different font. And here's why. Look at the J. It doesn't have a dot above the J, whereas the one in the copy does.
That's possible.
Right? That's a bad choice there, too, because now you're mixing serifed fonts. I don't like that at all. You're mixing serifed fonts, and you're mixing...
Well, wait. The dot, so not just a man of Mason is all in uppercase, so...
Oh, it is? Okay. There you go. Okay, yeah. It's still... I'm and this is exactly what you're talking about, is the thin parts disappear, mm-hmm. and now... So it might as well just not be there, and it might as well be lowercase. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah. It to the eye, it creates dissonance, and I don't like it.
It doesn't bother me as much. I think it draws more attention to the G. But here's what I'll say. All of this stuff is fixable. I mean, none of this.
It is. No, absolutely.
None of these are deal breakers.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
We're
totally
very, very.
We are getting really geeky. But but here's the thing: is that's the point, right? And so the other, I think a big point that I want to make about like what you do for a living, and what you see, and what you see on TV or in a magazine or online even, is the product of a lot of people with a lot of education, and they sweat the details. These little details make a huge difference in the end product. Mm-hmm. And everything that you see in all those places, when people do advertising, the thing I think most people tend to miss is that every single detail has been slaved and sweated over. What is the guy in the commercial wearing? Why is he wearing that color khaki instead of a British khaki? Why is he wearing those shoes? If you saw his socks while he walked, what socks was he wearing? Why?
Yeah.
Literally, they get down to that detail and that nitty gritty. Yeah. And there's a purpose for everything.
Yeah.
So
Norbert says these ads don't just state what makes us special. That's why I feel they're lacking. Okay, fair enough. But let's also understand too that these are print ads, right?
Yeah.
They're right. So,
and they're 2-line print ads.
So let's take a look at the video, because I think the video is much more interesting. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the
I'm sorry
on the print stuff, but let's take a look at the video, because I think the video is very, very interesting. Let's see here. Okay, so this one is called Even Better.
Mm-hmm.
How does a good man become even better? By working out? Or by working his way up the corporate ladder? By changing his diet? Or by changing his style? By traveling the world? Or by staying perfectly still? For 300 years, we've helped good men become the best versions of themselves through a dedicated fraternity and by taking an oath to live a life of integrity, service, and brotherly love. Men who are as committed to each other and their families as they are to our noble cause. In the end, we don't just make men better, we make them Masons. Not just a man, a Mason.
Thoughts?
super strong. In a lot of the weaknesses of the print go away in the video, right? And the difference is the motion, right? It's the movement is what brings it up a notch. The copy is so much better. It's got a great repetition, and repetition allows the audience to kind of fill in the blanks a little bit as you move through this thing. I think that, and when you allow someone to do that, it almost becomes their own thought, which is a sneaky, crappy advertising move, and a little bit of psychology. So I like all of that. I especially love when they stop doing stock footage and they put it in the lodge. Those guys playing pool together, right? Talking, laughing with each other before lodge. I dig it. I just think it's I think it's amazing. The problem I don't like the logo and tagline at the end. Ruins it. But it is what it is. But I like the ad. How about you?
I loved it. And I even liked it's funny. They did a video a while back. I don't think it's on the site anymore, but it relied almost exclusively on stock footage. And I wasn't crazy about that one because I didn't see that it all connecting, but I think this one, it really does. And
I agree.
What's extremely important too, is that who they're targeting. They're targeting millennials, and they're targeting, like younger, millennials on the younger scale. And what's interesting about them, and I do, part of my job is as a millennial whisperer, right? Like understanding this generational cohort and like what motivates them, is that many of them are kind of in this constant optimization kind of lifestyle where they're practicing mindfulness and they're doing yoga and they're upgrading their wardrobe and they're interested in their everyday carry and they're, and they're looking at YouTube videos on how to tie a bow tie. These are the guys that would be attracted to something like Masonry. And so by building a bridge from this need to improve oneself, that is inherent in the into the fraternity, and showing the camaraderie and the meaning behind it. I think they've just done a really, really strong.
I agree. And especially considering their budget, it's really terrific.
Yeah. And this is a 60. What I would want to see them do, this is my challenge to them, is I want to see 15s.
Yeah, there you go.
So they did for all of the videos that we're showing, and there's one that we're not showing. It's in Spanish, but I think it's basically the video we just saw, just with Spanish titles and voiceover. I think that a 60 is great. I think it's great to kind of get the concept across, and sort of if you're introducing it at an event or something like that. A 30 is good if you're running a 30-second commercial spot, but on YouTube, 30 seconds is a lot. It's an eternity. And
most YouTube and most YouTube has a 5-second click off.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to get it. I agree with all that stuff. I think that this is the only time I've ever seen this, by the way, is Maryland used this video, and they used it as sponsor stuff for public television shows. I think I think they paired wrong. I believe that the show I saw it on was Antiques Roadshow, which, hot with the millennials. And it's 30-somethingth year on air.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not really. I think it's a bad pairing, but that's just me. Where I'd like to see this is I'd like to see a 30-second that's very similar to this with the similar message. I'd like to see this 30 run before sports stuff. That's what I'd like to see. Live sports.
That's
It can be.
expensive.
It can be, but actually it doesn't have to be. ESPN actually is, they've got really interesting ways to run ads these days. And you can run them local, which is what I would do.
Yeah.
I don't think you run these national. It's too much, way too much money.
Yeah. I'd love to see them, as they do more of these, I'd love to see them do a couple of 5s for pre-roll on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
And some 15s.
Yeah. The thing is about video, about television is if you're looking at these as 30 and a 60 for television ads, even local, that can get expensive pretty fast. Now you can get good bang for your buck for 10 grand, 15 grand budget. You could do okay buying with that. But if you really want to get something done, you're going to have to spend a bunch of money because TV is not cheap.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Cut it way down and flood the internet because it's way cheaper to do
it's one more,
it's more efficient.
It's one more arrow in the quiver, right?
It is.
Right.
And you can target better online.
All right. Let's take a look at, let's take a look at the next one.
Sure. Go ahead.
Some people say, and they say it a lot, that nice guys don't finish first. So maybe it's time to reconsider what it means to be first.
It's about being your best, but knowing you could be even better.
It's being present, but respectful of history.
You want to take that back?
Yeah.
I think you should.
Good job. Okay, now go ahead, circle it. It's donating something more valuable than money.
It's believing in yourself and something bigger.
It's coming from different families, but treating each other like brothers.
It's not just being a man, it's being a Mason.
Awesome.
Oh, the hair on my arm just stood up.
It's great. Here's my problem with that one.
No, dear.
Cut the beginning. Shouldn't have started with a kid in the apron. Leave that for the end.
No. You're
wrong.
You're, Jason,
Nope.
you're completely wrong. You're
Nope.
completely wrong. You're completely wrong.
Nope.
You have to. Listen to Uncle Eric. You have to establish branding at the very beginning of the spot. Otherwise, you will never get the attention. You must do that. You absolutely no. Trust me, man. This is like.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, though, is that in the I understand where you're coming from. You're playing by the rules of a narrative. A narrative.
I'm playing by the rules of what
branding
works for attention.
Yeah, and I just disagree with the ad. I think that the ad itself, the ad asks rhetorical questions. So if you go back to the first ad didn't start off with a guy in an apron at all.
I think that was a little bit of a problem, but it's
wrong because because the ad starts with questions. It's the rhetorical questions that keep asking, like, hey, what about this? What about this? I want you to think about this. That's what's supposed to hook you into, I've got the answer for you. It keeps that viewer looking at it going, all right, fine. Well, what is this? What drug are you going to sell me? Right? What are the side effects? But then it's bang. It's Freemasonry. And I like that. It's a fun little, and it's a surprise almost. Holy God. This was all these, like, this was a sports guy. This was a guy who was working. And all of a sudden I see all these same guys, right? But now they're wearing aprons. I thought they were just funny aprons and blah, blah, blah. Now it turns out these guys are really cool. That I like that. It's a twist. You gave away that he was dead in the beginning. Don't do that.
okay. So here's I'm gonna tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I love you, Jason. I respect you, but you're wrong.
I'm not.
And you are. And here's why. 15 years ago, you would have been absolutely right. Right. And no advertising man and his, no self-respecting advertising man, whatever, reveal the reveal at the beginning.
Right.
However, what we've learned over the years is that if you don't establish the point initially, and it can be done. So like a really good example is when you look at, if you go on YouTube and you look at State Farm ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
The shot opens with a guy and he's talking to his State Farm agent, and there's a big State Farm logo in the background. That's all you need. That's all you, you don't have to you don't have to beat them over the head with it, right? You just have to establish that I'm looking at a State Farm ad. So I think that personally, I think that the second ad is much stronger. This one's called Nice Guys. Nice Guys, way stronger. And the thing is hearing it in their own voices.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Made a huge difference to me. The guy,
seeing the same guys, seeing the same guys doing the stuff in the beginning and then being Masons at the end, huge difference for me. Huge.
Yeah. If I had one wish for that ad, is that the voiceover at the end would have been just a little punchier, just a little stronger, because it was like, it was anthemic, and it just sort of like, they just sort of paid it off and got you out the door, No, I just wanted something that just smacked me upside the head, and it didn't quite do that, but
no,
man, it was such a good,
I don't see that one. I think that the way it exits is fine. I think that it's okay, but I think that I take your point on establishing, but then it needs to be done better.
It's essential.
I'm sure, fine, but then do it better. You need to be more clever. I think that it just didn't fit, and so there's immediately in the ad it causes a bump for me. See, Tony knows.
Tony's agreeing with Jason. Well,
Tony's a great man. That's why he gets it. I think maybe there's a better way to do it, Eric, and that's what the problem is. But it caused dissonance in my head. I went.
All right, wait. I'm gonna play it one more time because I want to pay more attention to the beginning here.
Sure.
Some people say, and they say it a lot, that nice guys don't finish first. So maybe it's time to reconsider what it means to be first.
It's about being your best, but knowing you can be even better.
It's being present, but respectful of history.
Want to take that back?
Yeah.
I think you should.
Good job. Okay, now go ahead, circle it. It's donating something more valuable than money.
It's believing in yourself and something bigger.
It's coming from different families, but treating each other like brothers.
It's not just being a man, it's being a Mason.
Nope.
I think it's so great.
I'm sorry.
So great.
I think what
the beginning sucks.
Here's what was brilliant about it. It was only like a second, like a 1 second shot, but what it does is it circles back, right?
I know it does. So I get the. I get the thing. I don't like.
And we see the guy who we saw in the second shot, right? Who then was playing chess with the older dude, and then he's a Mason. We get to
they're
see
all
that.
Masons. Yeah, I agree.
No, I not understand that, but I'm saying you have to look at this through the eyes of somebody who's not a Mason, right? You're showing it's taking you on a circular journey, and by establishing that shot at the very beginning, right? You all he's doing is he's just looking at us. He's just looking at us, right? And then we go through that journey, and then we find out this is where he is. He's in a lodge. Yeah. Sorry, man. I think it's brilliant.
Totally
disagree. It's brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, totally disagree.
All right. So let's get to the bigger question.
Yeah.
Is it a good idea?
Should all Grand Lodges adopt this?
No. That's not the question.
No. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So let's start first. Okay.
Yeah. Should we be advertising?
It's so hard. It's such a hard question. It really honestly is. I don't see the harm, but I don't know if I see a benefit either. Does that make sense?
Well, so one of the things that you said when we were talking about doing this episode was you had some concerns about
that's different. That's my concern. My concern is the global. Hey, here's for all Grand Lodges to use. You know, you can customize this. You can put your logo on it on the lower right hand corner instead of the squished square and compasses and blah blah blah. And change a word here or there maybe. But the problem I have with that, but that's a global problem, right? It's not is this a good idea? Should we advertise? Should we not advertise? That's, a separate question. The problem with customizing it and putting this out, right? The idea behind it is a very, very smart one, which is, and it's a positive one, which is there should be consistency in a brand.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to make a brand, the brand should have consistency in the marketplace. And that's what they're attempting here and trying to get across the country, at least in the United States, is for Grand Lodges to adopt this visual mode of communication and to say, we can speak with one voice this way. That's a good thing. It drives sales, right? Because consistency, that makes a difference in the marketplace. My problem with that is that sells a message that's untrue, which is that there is an overarching, organization to this, that there is a Grand Lodge in the United States that all thinks this way. This is the way we are. There is no brand like that. That's not what Masonry is. Masonry is local. Masonry is Grand Lodge Masonry. Each Grand Lodge is sovereign. Do they come together? Do we practice essentially the same thing? Yes, but it's different. And so the thing is that big message is a lie, in the fewest words possible. It's not communicating the truth. It's not a lie. It's just not communicating the truth. And I don't think it helps us overall.
Okay.
So that's a problem that I have with it. And that's especially with the print stuff, because the print stuff, what you're looking to do with that is that you're looking to design your website around it, right? You're looking to design your Facebook page about it. And these are your home. This is where you live in the digital world. And so if I see a 30-second ad on TV and I go, oh, that was slick, that was really cool, I'll learn more about you. And I go to your website, right? That's where I'm going to learn the most about you, because I might potentially spend some time there reading, getting to know you, looking at pictures, that kind of stuff. And if it's all the same imagery, I'm selling you something that might not, we're not going to live up to, right? Masonry is really local. It takes on the color and the flavor of its locality. And it's something that you really honestly don't learn as a Mason until you've traveled a little bit, until you've gone to other lodges, you've gone to other districts, and then you go, oh, wow, that's different. You guys do it.
And that's the problem. That's the problem that I have with it, is that for people who are outside the organization, I think we make way too much of the fact that Grand Lodges are sovereign and different from state to state. I think what we're missing is the things that we have in common. And it's so, look, it's so important to us that we actually have a conference of Grand Masters.
Well, sure, right.
Right. Who get together and decide on what's what is standard, what is the same, what has to be the same in order for recognition and amity to take place from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I think that but at the same time, we so jealously guard our parochialism, right? That we're failing to communicate what it is that we are to an audience that doesn't know who we are. Right. And so what happens is that the way that we get defined is we get defined via, Dan Brown, or we get defined via,
listen,
Alan Moore, and we get defined by,
you're not wrong.
Treasure.
No, you're not wrong.
And so my thing is that, first of all, I think we absolutely should be advertising. We don't need to be selling, right? We don't need to be doing promotional advertising. We don't need to be doing consideration advertising. What we need to be doing is awareness advertising. People need to know what Masonry is, who Masons are,
and to point you in the right direction to get you the correct information. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that this campaign does that very, very well.
I agree with that.
The other thing I think is super important is that, for most, it's really funny, but like, we both travel around the world, right? We talk to people about Freemasonry. And whenever I talk to somebody who's not a Mason, they're asking the same questions. And it's kind of like, if I were to tell them, well, we do it this way, but in Kentucky, they use a variant of the Preston Webb ritual that doesn't, like, right.
Yeah.
It's horses for courses, right? It's scale. And so what I think we have a really, really big problem that, 50 years ago, we didn't have this problem, because 50 years ago, everybody had a relative who was a Mason.
Sure. Right.
You knew where your lodge was in town.
Right. Your
Masons would march in the 4th of July parade.
I didn't have to tell you that Masonry was local.
Exactly. And so the problem that we have now is that we have a whole bunch of young guys who need and probably want what we have to offer, but they don't know that it's out there, and they don't know that it exists, and they don't know why they would want to become one. And nobody at the Grand Lodge level, down to the local lodge level, is adept at defining this and making it understandable in a succinct way. And so what happens is, it's like, it's like, man, just like watching Masons squirm when you say, when somebody who's not a Mason says, what do you guys do? Oh, we make good men better. We do a lot of charity work. It's like
when I worked at the Scottish Rite, I had my school background is advertising stuff, and especially psychology, underpinnings of advertising stuff. And they would get mad at me because they'd be like, well, all you have to do is come up with like a little elevator speech. We need to have something that's universal that we can give to everyone. And I said, well, I thought really long and hard about it, because I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. We need an elevator speech. You're 100% right. And the more I thought about it, the more complex it was, that I just couldn't do it. Can't do it. And I finally had an epiphany, and I went to them and I said, here's my elevator speech. There is no elevator speech. I can't give you one. I can give you 20 minutes. I can sit down with you and have a cup of coffee, and I can really try and tell you some stuff, and I can see if it's right for you, and we can communicate together. But 15 seconds ain't going to cut it. Sorry. It's just too big. It's much, much bigger than that. And the thing is that they just looked at me like I had punched them in the gut. And I'm like, don't you see? That's the thing, is that's what makes you different. That's your USP, your unique selling proposition, is that you can't be boiled down to a successory. You're not a clever slogan. You're something that's much deeper, much more complex than that you need some time to really communicate to someone and to give them that feeling. It ain't prepackaged and bite-sized. It's not what Masonry is. And if that's what you want, it doesn't work.
Well, I disagree. I think that it has to. You know, when you look at how young people, how millennials discover things, how they discover new products, new trends, new fashions and stuff like that, right? It's in a very quick way, right? It's very, you know, like to say to somebody, I can't tell you what it is because it's too complicated. That's not something.
No. That's not the point. See, you're hearing exactly what they heard, which was there is no such thing as an elevator speech. Listen to the follow-up. Let's go have a cup of coffee and talk for 20 minutes. Then I can start to give you a picture of this. That's the elevator speech. The elevator speech is, hey, let's communicate more about this. Let me have a chance to actually tell you something and not just give you surfacey crap. That's not who we are. Do you see what I'm saying? That's my message, is that it's not prepackaged. It's not something that I can give you in a quick soundbite.
Yeah. And I would say that, like, if you look at so there's something in advertising that we talk a lot about, in strategy. It's called the consumer decision journey. Right. And it's sometimes people call it the funnel. Right. Sometimes it's represented as a spiral. Like, we have lots of different ways of representing it. But basically, first you become aware of something, right, and what it is, and then you start to consider it, right? Then it's this period called active consideration. And active consideration is when you're kind of thinking, like, maybe this is something I might like, you know, and then you start picturing yourself as a Mason, and then you know. And then the next thing is, like, then you start, like, actually shopping, right? So now you know, when you're in that you know, that's sort of a comparison thing. So maybe you're, you know, that's at the point where you're sitting down with somebody and you're talking with them for 20 minutes. Is this something I really want to do?
I totally disagree. See, I think you've gone way too far, way too fast. And I think it's actually the beginning, the awareness, just the awareness to be able to say, like, so the beginning of this process, right, is having an awareness. And then if you find another Mason, if you ask a Mason, hey, listen, what's this whole Masonry thing about? That's way more active in my
But people are never going to do that. That's the problem.
Sure they will. Hey, look at that ring. What's a pin? So I get this all the time, Eric. I'm out, what's that pin?
Yeah.
And I say, it's Freemasons. Oh, great. What's that? It's a fraternity. What do you guys do? That's a huge, long story. I'd be happy to tell you. Are you interested? There. Now we have a couple things back and forth. You can tell whether they actually really are making a decision. What are you doing here? You know, or is it, go look it up, you know, on Google. Go look it up on Google, man. You know, I'm sorry. I don't think, and I think that putting it into a canned, you know, 6 sentences does it a huge disservice. And I think that, and I don't think that you can accurately portray to someone what it is that quickly for them to make a decision.
Yeah. I would say that if you can't do that, you're done. You know, like you're never going to create awareness. You're never going to their own, you know, everybody has their own, interpretation of what it is.
Yeah.
Right? There's no agreement on what it is.
Right.
Because they're coming to it from their particular vantage point. Right. So it's,
sure.
You know, it's kind of like college.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
What is college? Right.
What do you do there?
It's a place where you go party. It's a place where you sleep with women. Right. It's a place where you, it's a place where you go to classes and get a degree and you get a good job. And there's a lot of aspects to it. Right. But what is it? It's an experience. It's an experience that every young man should have. Or, and that was my point, which is I can't give you, you know, a sale. You know, I can't give you that. What I can tell you is it's an experience, and it's a fraternity, and it's great. It's brought me some of the closest friends in my life. Yeah, but I can tell you that our pals at the Scottish Rite have done that in a 60-second spot. They've given me enough
So that's different.
information.
In my view, what that is that's information to whet your appetite and to push you to the website to learn more.
Yeah.
And that's what I agree with that.
But that's what an elevator
But what I'm
pitch
saying
does.
is that in a personal conversation, I can't say to them, when they go, "Oh, what's that pin?" Some people say, and often, they're going to look at me like, "What in the hell are you off on?" I'm not going to speak to them in rhetoricals, like Hal Riney. I'm literally going to say to them, it's a fraternity, right? It's a brotherhood. What does that mean? What do you do in lodge? Stuff. We do ritual stuff. Well, what's ritual? Like, everything I say is going to be like, yeah, but you're obfuscating, Why can't you just tell me straight out? And that's the problem, right? Is that in interpersonal communication between two people, when I ask you a direct question, if you speak to me in Adonese, or if you try and give me spin, the public is too smart for that stuff. They know when you've practiced your stupid little speech that you give over and over again, because most people aren't good at it. You know who's good at it? Comedians. And that's it. Those are the only people that can say the same exact thing over and over. And you go, wow, they just made that up right now. That's really clever. That's really good. But normal people they can't do that. They can't reproduce that. And when they try to, it looks fake, because people can see them like kind of rolling your eyes in your head going, oh, what did I say next? This is my next sentence.
Yeah,
and like,
which is why we've done such a crap job
exactly
over the last 50 years.
Because what we need to tell people is don't try. What you do is you say, hey, listen, it's a fraternity. It's a big, long story. Let me go to a website. I'm going to give you a website. I'm going to show you where you can go and find out more about it. But it's more than 30 seconds I can give you.
It's
tough, but again,
I think hang on a second. I think if you cannot succinctly look, there's levels of information, right? If you can't succinctly, and I think what Nice Guys does even better than even better, is it gives you what it is. It's about learning.
Yeah.
How to improve ourselves and find more meaning in our lives together.
I totally
That's
agree.
what we do.
Here's the difference, though, between in an interpersonal conversation where we're talking like that. Those words mean nothing. They literally just you've said nothing to me. Why does it work in that ad and not an interpersonal conversation? Is because the action, the pictures that are moving in the background that show you and demonstrate. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
This is right.
Which is why we need to advertise.
I agree with that. I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. Now, do I think that that we need to run a Super Bowl ad? No.
I don't think anybody needs to run a Super Bowl ad, frankly.
That's actually the truth. It's, the people who need to run a Super Bowl ad are people who have so much money burning a hole in their pockets corporately.
Let me tell you guys a little secret about Super Bowl ads.
Yeah, they're all
Super
really
Bowl
cheap.
ads. What's that?
They're cheaper than they're.
No.
Nobody pays rack rate, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but even so, you still pay a lot of money for it. But Super Bowl ads, in almost all cases, are really targeted at their internal. They're targeted at their own employees.
Absolutely.
Right?
They're
targeted so that the employees feel good about where they're working, and you can say, hey,
and they're a success.
We bought a Super Bowl ad. It doesn't. Unless you're Doritos or Miller or Budweiser. Actually, it's Budweiser is the big advertiser, right? Unless you're one of those brands, it doesn't really move the needle at all, right? It doesn't. It generates some buzz. You spent a lot of money, but it doesn't really. But I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we need to do Super Bowl ads. What I am saying is that we do need to advertise. We do need to create awareness of what it is.
I agree with that. I agree. And it needs to be targeted.
And it needs to be targeted. And then once people understand like the premise, there you
go. Right.
This is
what's
what
the
Masonry
follow up?
is. Yeah. Right. Then you can start to say, then if the next question out of the guy's mouth is, what do you guys do? Right now he's now aware. Right.
Correct.
You've done your job.
That's
your
right.
job is over. Now it's the Grand Lodge's turn to say,
that's right.
Let me invite you to a dinner that we're having.
Let me show you what they do, what we do.
And a great example of this, we talked about this in our episode on table proceedings.
Sure.
Right. That's a great way.
It
right?
really is.
Let me invite you to this black tie event where you're going to just be like blown away by how cool it is.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's really interesting about a festive board, and what's so effective about them, is they give you a taste of a little bit of everything that Masonry has to offer. Just a taste, right? Yeah. It's a sampler platter of Masonry.
Yes.
And it's got some ritual. It's got a bunch of camaraderie. It's got some, it has some formal aspects to it and some informal aspects to it. It's both serious and fun. I mean, it literally has everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a microcosm. So
right.
I love it.
But I'm just saying, without that awareness piece, you'll never get that person, right?
I agree with that. Sure.
So I think, my takeaway is the kinds of things that the Scottish Rite is doing with this ad campaign is sorely needed. And it needs to be
absolutely.
It needs to be consistent across the board.
It does.
It does.
My problem lies in, if you look at it, some people have taken it too far. There are some Grand Lodges that have literally made their entire website out of this. They've farmed it out to these guys and said, here, make this. And fine. But the problem is that you've done nothing. Like, you let somebody else think for you and show you and blah, blah. You've injected none of your personality or who you really are underneath that stuff. And so when I get hooked on that and I go, wow, that's great. That is me. That's what I want. When I show up to Lodge, that is a wholly different story. And the big problem there that underlies that is that you can advertise and you can make aware as much as you want. But as soon as you start giving negative experiences like that to people, they're going to go and talk. Oh, I saw that. Oh, I thought that was so cool. It was so slick. That is not who they are. It was 4 guys sitting on hemorrhoid cushions in a lodge yelling at each other, about, who was here last week and getting no more reading the minutes. This poor guy, he doesn't want to see the minute. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what we have to be aware of. And we've got to be really, really, really careful of, is because that ad is slick. It's cool. And it does show a Masonry that exists, but it doesn't exist everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And honestly, like the thing that I think is so brilliant about this is that what the Scottish Rite is, because it is national in scope.
Yeah.
Right. What the Scottish Rite is capable of doing is creating that awareness and creating that expectation and creating that desire. Right.
Absolutely.
If the Grand Lodges themselves are not willing to step up and follow through, right, with realizing the promise that Masonry. Look, I can tell you, like, advertisers. It's really funny, but like a lot of people like to think, oh, advertising, it's all lies, right?
It's not.
You would not believe the number of lawyers that comb
It's true.
through every aspect of our ad.
No, you can't make false claims. They will. Yeah. They will get you.
They will get you.
That's just
right.
I agree with that. That's totally true.
Yeah. So the thing is like the Scottish Rite could never go into like the Grand Lodge of Indiana or something like that and say, you got to do this and that and that to make the brand consistent. Correct. They'll never be able to do that. But by creating that expectation, right, it gives the Grand Lodge now a roadmap. So in other words, we have that consumer decision journey. We have that funnel, right? We have that, we've created awareness, right? Now the rest is up to you. And the problem
is that most won't pick up that mantle and do anything about it.
I disagree. I have a little more faith. Maybe not right now. Maybe not right now, but as the fraternity gets a little younger, and as we get people, see, part of the problem too is that a lot of the guys who are in charge of the fraternity now came up at a time when Masonry was much more healthy and much more prominent. And so they're thinking to themselves, like, how do we get back to that? Right. There's no going back. Right. And so, so when you start getting, and we're starting to see this now, right? Where you start getting millennials in the Grand Line, right? They know, they never grew up, like I'm a Gen Xer. I'm the first generation that got screwed by the society.
That's right.
So like for me, like this idea of like, well, work hard and you'll be rewarded. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Right. Like
Not at all.
That's the generational cohort for me. So, so if I'm going to appeal to that generation and make something desirable, I have to speak in the language that generational cohort's going to understand, because they don't. Yeah. You can't say, oh, remember what it used to be like? No, they don't. Right. They don't know from that, right?
And you're 100% right. Absolutely. And I think that I think you're right. We need 5 to 10 more years. 5 way probably too little. Maybe even 20 before we can get rid of some of that institutional knowledge that we want to go away. You know what I'm saying? Because you're right. The guys that are coming up now, the younger guys that we're pulling in, don't know what it was like. They just know what it's like now and what they want. Exactly. They know what they want. And we're starting to see them impose their will a little bit and to take what they want and to make what they want, which is actually way more important than taking what you want.
Yeah, I agree.
Make what you want.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that I just had a great idea. That would be a great ad. Make your masonry.
Make what you want. Yeah.
Make your masonry. You're a craftsman. Go make it. And like, at any rate, I think that you're starting to see that. And as that accelerates and that becomes more and more, I think you're right. Then we can start to set higher expectations for Grand Lodges and for the lodges that are constituent to them to hold up their end of the promise. We're going to show people, what they could have in a lodge. This is a baseline. You need to be giving that, or you're not a lodge.
Right.
So,
yeah. So I think, my final verdict on this is that I think what the Scottish Rite has done is important, great work. I applaud it. Yeah. My fervent hope is that they don't stop. Keep going. Keep making new ads. Don't just do this for a year or two and then go, okay, we're done. This is a long game, and like if you think about, it's funny. So the agency that I work for, we're responsible for, icons like Tony the Tiger, right?
Yeah, right.
Tony the Tiger is like 65 years of goodwill building.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Yeah.
Allstate, the good hands people, right? 65, it's like no, it's like almost 100 years of goodwill building. This is a long game, and
agreed.
And I applaud the northern jurisdiction for doing this. My hope is that the southern jurisdiction will get in the act as well, and start doing stuff like this. I think only those. Look, the Shrine does a great job at what the Shrine does, which is their charitable efforts. I don't think that they can really deviate at this point from that. And I don't know that they should. And I don't see any other organization that has the scope and the resources and the ability to do what needs to be done in terms of creating large scale awareness across the United States to attract, not sell masonry, not recruit.
No,
attract,
exactly. Yeah.
Attract men.
Yeah, I agree.
To
Absolutely.
to show the things that
to
men
open
are
the door
for. Yeah. To say that, this is a way to have camaraderie and meaning and a way to improve yourself. That's meaningful. And millennials and Gen Z, they're hungry for this.
Agreed.
They're hungry for this. So
Yeah.
What the Scottish Rite has done is they've created a really spiritually nourishing meal in 60 and 30 seconds.
I think that what they've done is that they've made a significant investment. I think they looked at the landscape and they didn't like what they saw, and they made a significant investment into building something for the future. I cannot applaud that more. I mean, it is a huge, huge boon to Freemasonry that they went ahead and did this work.
And I just because I can't help but tweak their nose a little bit. Just remember, like, it was almost 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. It was like right when we first started doing video, where we did a kind of a takedown of that book that the Scottish Rite had put out about
right.
We should be targeting millennials. Right. You should be targeting boomers because they've got lots of time on their hands.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, right. How far we've come, right? Like it's
refreshing.
My heart's warm. Yeah.
I know, right? And absolutely. And are there things that I think that they can improve on this stuff? Absolutely. But man, for your first swing, good job. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah.
If this is what we've got to work with going forward, God bless. I think it's going to be so great. So again, we'll come back and later in February, I'll tell you what their big reveal was. I know that they're working on really targeted stuff. I know that they've been working with a couple of Grand Lodges that they have basically ceded control of their Facebook pages to, and let them experiment to see what they could pull. And it's going like gangbusters because Facebook allows you to really drill down and target. Mm-hmm. And they've done that. I've heard the early returns. I heard one of the funniest ones was when she came and presented to a group of us. Linda, she said that one Grand Lodge said, "This is great. It's really successful. Could you turn it off? Because we need to catch up. We can't. It's like drinking from a fire hose." And she was like, "Yeah, that's not how this works.
No.
So no, we cannot turn it off." You're right. And so like, that's how successful apparently this stuff is that they're doing now. So hopefully that's going to be expanded and it's going to be really big, and we'll have even cooler things to talk about. So there you go. That's our take. So there you go.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yeah. So Alan Salmi says that even if it's only 25% effective, it's still better than nothing at all. Absolutely. And this is all, this look
amazing.
It's you could say it's baby steps, but it's sorely needed. And I think for the first time, look, I was tickled by the guy who played Ben Franklin,
right. Sure.
They were fun, but I think that probably if they were targeting millennials were like, is this cosplay? What is this? I don't think it really kind of hit home. I think that this is doing a much better job. All right. Yeah. Last word. Last
word. I was just thinking about the Shriners, and I was thinking about how much fun it would be if they actually took it seriously and did a fun ad. Just saying.
Okay. Well, listen,
right,
we want to know what you guys think. Should we be advertising?
Is it
a
good
idea? Yeah. Do you like it? Go to the website. Mm-hmm. It's notjustaman.org. Mm-hmm. And you can take a look at all the ads and all the assets that they've got down there. They've got a brand guide that tells you how to use it, what kind of colors to use and stuff.
Yep.
Let us know what you think. This is something that, like I said, it's near and dear. The very first thing that I ever did, kind of on a large stage, was I wrote an article. I think it was, I can't remember. It might've been the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts or Missouri. I can't remember. I wrote an article for one of the Grand Lodge magazines called Marketing and Masonry. And so that was the very first thing that I'd ever written. Like, it was before the podcast, it was before anything. And so this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. And it's great to see that there's been some movement on that in the last couple of years. So this is the point where we thank our executive producers. You make the show possible. If you'd like to become an executive producer, please visit us at our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/X-Oriente. We're going to be making new pins. I just got the new materials in the mail, so I'm going to this weekend start putting new packets out. And so everybody's going to get a new packet. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Cool. So
Packers play next Sunday. So yeah, we keep winning, baby, to the Super Bowl.
I can hardly wait.
I'll see you in Miami.
Season to be over. Yeah.
Don't blaspheme the Green Bay Packers. The finest football team on the face of this earth.
Yeah, winning isn't the only thing. It's nothing. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. I guess we'll be back next Monday night.
Sure.
Because of the game. So please join us then. Let us know what you think. Drop us a line at xoriente@gmail.com. Leave a comment on our Facebook page at facebook.com/xoriente, or leave a comment at the blog and get the show notes. We'll include links to the notjustaman.org site, and go check it out. It's a really, really interesting. Let us know what you think.
It is. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.